They stopped fighting. On a cold December night in 1914, rifles fell silent along the Western Front, not because the generals ordered it, but because men on both sides chose to be human for one impossible afternoon. In this video, you'll hear the full, unforgettable story of the Christmas Truce, who started it, what actually happened in no man's land, and why a moment of peace in the middle of World War still haunts us today. Stay with me, the ending will stay with you. It was war at its most industrial, most brutal. Trenches carved into mud and blood ran across northern France and Belgium. Soldiers lived shoulder to shoulder with cold, rats, shell fire, and constant fear. Commanders counted maps and supply lines. Men counted hours until their next watch. The problem was simple and terrible. Two massive armies, dug in and determined to break each other with no easy way out. But then something extraordinary happened. Stories say it began with a song. On Christmas Eve, some British troops heard singing from the German trenches. Carols, faint, ghostly, distinct in the frozen air. At first, the British assumed it was a trick, but the voices continued. Silent night drifting across the snow, and a German soldier's voice singing still knacked. Curiosity pushed across the wire. A single voice called out in broken German and English, "Merry Christmas!" The reply was tentative, then louder. Someone shouted the name of a dead comrade. Someone else laughed. A cigarette was lit and passed. This was not a single, tidy event. It happened in pockets, along a stretch of front lines, separate truces that slowly stitched together. On some sectors, the fighting tapering off. On others, officers tried to stop it and failed. Imagine the scene. Muddy no man's land lit by small fires, men cautiously climbing out of trenches, rifles slung, helmets in hand, hands raised, looking over at the enemy and seeing not a faceless foe but another hungry, frightened man. Then the exchanges began. Cigarettes for chewing tobacco, chocolate and canned fruit, letters for letters. A German soldier offering a flask, a British Tommy sharing a parcel of tinned plum pudding. Soldiers swapped photos of their children. There are even accounts of officers sharing a joint meal of captured rations, a strange, simple banquet in the belly of war. And then, the thing that seems almost mythic, games. Footballs were found, boots kicked, makeshift goals marked by helmets or sticks. Men who had spent months trying to kill each other were suddenly laughing and playing a game. Not a staged reprieve, but a spontaneous, fragile festival of humanity. But it wasn't universal. Higher commands on both sides saw the truce as dangerous. News of fraternization reached generals who feared it would sap discipline and morale. Orders were sent. No more fraternizing, no more singing, back to the trenches. In many places, the truce lasted only hours. In others, it lingered into Boxing Day, and then, reluctantly, the men obeyed the drums and bugles and climbed back into the long, cold routine. Why did it happen? The answers are as human as they are simple. Exhaustion, shared religion and culture, and a desperate longing for home during the season most associated with family. The war was grinding, the slaughter immense, and Christmas offered a psychological crack in the narrative, a chance to remember what it meant to be more than a uniform. Picture a young private walking into no man's land, spotting the enemy's muddy face, realizing he had the same tired eyes as his own friend back home. Picture men reading the same Bible, singing the same hymns, comparing the same childhood memories. For a few hours, enmity thinned. The emotional peak wasn't fireworks or a heroic speech. It was the quiet exchange of names, the clumsy hugging, the tears wiped away because there simply was no other thing to do. And then the bitter truth. The war resumed. Shellfire returned with terrible intensity. Officers punished those who'd left the line. The ephemeral truce could not change strategy or diplomacy. Some historians say the truce fed commanders, fears, and hardened resolve on both sides. But for the men who lived it, those few hours were real, a human island in a sea of violence. The Christmas Truce of 1914 is not just a quaint story. It's a mirror held up to humanity during its darkest moments. It asks us, when faced with suffering and hate, can we still choose compassion? The truce shows that even amid an industrialized slaughter, ordinary people found ways to reclaim their humanity, if only for a moment. If this story moved you, tell me in the comments, would you have climbed out of the trench? Which part of this moment struck you most? the singing, the gifts, or the impromptu football match. Hit like if you believe stories like this should be remembered, and subscribe for more chilling and hopeful tales from history. For a single Christmas in 1914, enemies became neighbors, enemies became friends, and for a heartbeat, the world remembered peace. Keep that memory. Share it. Don't let the moment fade.